A medium-sized forklift or payloader would do wonders right now. It's another day at Freeman's garage. We're on the abandoned 56 Chevy, and I'm going to share with you the floor pan plan because I'm going to cut the floor out of this car. But the thing is there's no lift in here, no hoist, and this body has to come off the frame. These two got to be not just separated, they need a full-blown divorce. You know, a judge is going to sign off on this and everything. And yeah, it's the kind of job that can really bring out a guy's sentence enhancers. So yeah, here's my plan. I'm going to be tackling this job solo. Story of my life. So let's take this fender off. Race car stuff comes off quick so that we can get the door open and get all the parts that are stored in here out of the car. That way you can really forgot about this. Hood ornaments. It came with the car. That way I can really show you why I'm going to do what I'm going to do, how I think I'm going to do this by myself. I think I can. All right, I think that's enough stuff out so that you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm about to tell you the plan of how I think I'm going to separate the body from the frame in this garage by myself. And I'm also going to tell you why the body has to come off the frame. But for a little bit of context, in case you're brand new here at Freeman's garage in the 56 Chevy project, if you're wet behind the ears, you just hopped into this project cold, here's what's going on. The trunk floor was completely rotted out, and we cut it out in a previous video, linked below. I'm actually thinking now in hindsight that I kind of wish I didn't cut the trunk floor out yet. I'll explain that as well in a second. There's a reason, but I think we're going to be okay though. Brand new trunk floors that come as one big piece with the spare tire well and everything, those are available, so we will buy one of those. That's how we will replace the trunk floor. But we need to do the floor inside the car first because the new trunk floor actually will overlap the big floor pan. That's the floor inside the car, to overlap it a little bit. And we're going to buy the new floor pan for in here as one big giant piece as well. And the reason for that is because even though there's, you can buy a panel, individual panels for every section of this floor. But there's no point in doing that because every section in this car is rotted out. And in fact, over here, I think this car probably got smacked over here. I'm not sure. We'll look at this. It's a pretty big repair. You can see it in previous Freeman's garage videos. You could probably see that where the floor is welded together. Yeah, we'll look at it from underneath too in a second. But every section of this floor is rotted out. The whole thing has to be done. And the braces underneath, which we'll look at in a second, where the braces underneath the floor, that's where the body bolts to the frame. And those are rotted out. And if you get the new big piece, you can get those braces already welded in place. So it'll save a ton of time and money, and that all has to be done. Because when we take an off-ramp at 80 miles an hour, we don't want the body of the car to separate from the frame and roll down into the ditch. And as we're going upside down, barrel rolling, we'll see our frame on wheels continue on. The rocker panel's got to be replaced too, and I'll touch on that in a second, because it's all part of why my plan is what it is. But if you go underneath, okay, hold on, I'm kind of stuck. Try and move around here. Okay. There's one of the braces that goes all the way across underneath the floor. And you can see that's where, that's what gives the floor strength. And that's where it attaches to the frame. And yeah, they're all rotted out. And then you can see we're right below that big repair that I was showing you up above. And if I back up here, we've looked at some of this stuff in previous videos, but you can see this, that brace is separated from the inner rocker panel. Don't worry, I'm working towards a point here and the plan. It's all gonna make sense. You'll let me know in the comments if it makes sense or not. I'm gonna mention something about quarter panels in a second here too, but after seeing the braces underneath the floor and how the body actually mounts to the frame, it's clear to see that if you're going to replace the entire floor, the body has to come off the frame. If you were just replacing little sections here and there, you could just leave the body bolted to the frame. But if you're going to cut the whole thing out, what would happen is the floor would be bolted to the frame and the body around the floor would fall to the ground. So yeah, that'd be a nice surprise. So there's no choice. The body has to come off the frame. It has to be a frame off. Not a frame off restoration though. We're not restoring the car. Maybe sometime down the road, but right now we need a solid floor in it so that the body doesn't separate from the frame while operating on a public roadway around other people. We might do some quarter panel replacement as well though, but the point is just to make it solid and start driving it, and a restoration can happen later. But here's the part where it starts to get real fun, and I'm about to tell you the divorce plans. This quarter panel here could use some work, but it's fine. We want a solid car to drive, not to restore yet. So I'm going to leave that all alone. And because I want to drive around in this green, you know, I want to look all like this. I just want to be solid. So we're going to leave that alone, but we're going to replace this rocker panel, which has had work before. Now the rocker panel, okay, we got the outer rocker panel, and then on the back side here we've seen it when we were underneath here, there's the inner rocker panel. And when you buy the one-piece floor, the inner rocker panels come already attached to the floor. So the thing to do is to do the new floor pan before even touching the outer rockers. That way, when you do the outer rockers, after the new floor is in with new inner rockers, your new outer rocker will have something to weld to. Now let's hop over to the driver's side. Over here on the driver's side, it does not look as good. It's a little jacked up, if you know what I'm saying, because not only do we have more rust in the quarter panel, but we have this. We got to deal with that. And of course we're doing the outer rocker over here as well. But if we're going to do that, we're doing outer rocker, we might as well do the quarter panel on this side. Here's where it's interesting. Well, this is where the rocker panel, about right here is where the rocker panel and the quarter panel come together. Now, we could do anything with this quarter panel from a full quarter panel replacement. Not interested. Not at the moment. Not this year. But we could do the bottom section, or we could do little bits here and there, whatever our imagination can come up with, whatever we want to do. But the thing is when we do, after the new floor's in and we do the new outer rocker, we are going to make an attempt at making this section of the quarter panel at least be presentable enough or be able to weld the new outer rocker to it. But the way that's pinched, we're probably going to just be cutting this out. Probably from here down or so. I know it's a little bit more, can be a little bit more complicated than that. It's kind of hard to just say, well, I'll just cut this piece out. Because I could cut out a little piece of the quarter panel and the quarter panel up here might buckle. You know, so there's a lot more thought that's got to be put into that. Just kind of, but that's just the basic of what's going on with that. Something's got to be done with at least this section. So the order will be brand new floor pan, brand new trunk pan, and the brand new floor pan will come with the new inner rockers and braces underneath. And when all that is attached to the body, the new floor pans are attached to the body, then we can do new outer rockers, and any quarter panelage repairage that we may choose to do or need to do. Then we drop in motor, trans, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, I gotta buy a drive shaft too. Here's how I'm gonna remove the body from the frame by myself. And I've spent a lot of time actually not working on the car, just figuring out how am I gonna do this, because if I get in the middle of it, if I get halfway through separating these things and get crushed, well, I'm just going to be rat food. I'm going to pull out all the body mount bolts that bolt the body to the frame. That's kind of mandatory. Waterfowl can stay there if it wants. I'm not their boss. Can't tell them what to do, but we'll get all those bolts out. And then we will drop the pitman arm and all the steering linkage off of that steering box. And then we will unbolt the steering box from the frame, which the steering box is actually cracked, by the way, so that's something we'll have to deal with later. But once with the steering box unbolted from the frame, the steering box can just hang off the sector shaft there, if you will, and the steering wheel won't have to come off, the column can stay in the car, and the steering box can just hang. I am going to weld some bracing inside the car so that the body doesn't twist on us when we cut the floor out. But we'll talk about that in a little second, because there's something I've been kind of thinking about with the bracing. So just forget about bracing for right now. How do we take our body, which is detached from the frame? They're not connected anymore. The body's just sitting on it. How do we raise the body? How do we raise the body up so that we can scooch the frame out from underneath it? How do we do that? I can tell you for a fact that if you got 3 dudes on each side, you can just pick it up and carry it. I mean, yeah! Probably not going to do that by myself, even if I could split myself in two and have me on one side and me on the other side. That still wouldn't be enough me's to do it. I mean, I do have the strength of 8 men, but... So how the heck are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? A medium-sized forklift or payloader would do wonders right now. Or, if there was no back glass, good glass to sustain in, but if there's no glass there, we could make a square tubing triangle around the package tray on each side of the car and lift from above, if we were able to lift from above. You see, the thing is, I remember what I was going to say about the trunk floor. If the trunk floor was in, we could run a bolt through where the gas tank straps bolt into, and we could lift from there. If we could lift from the ceiling, or we could use an engine hoist back here and lift up from the trunk floor like that. And see, that's another thing. Okay. The back, that's the difficult part to figure out how to lift, right? And I just tripped over something. The front, that's the easy part though. Here's where your hood hinges go into. Okay, that's where your bolts for your hood hinges bolt into. Okay, you could just take a piece of plate steel and just drill 2 holes in it and bolt it here and weld a hook on it, or drill or torch a hole through it and just engine hoist or whatever and hook straps just lift up on this. You know, we could even take the engine hoist here at the front, lift the front, and then slide out the old floor and slide the new floor in. You know, and don't even worry about lifting the back. Just raise the front up enough to slide out and in. Or cut the old floor out, slide the new one in. But then you got the frame under there. And see, because here's one of the things. When we cut the floor out, okay, we're going to have a little bit of work to do on the toe board. This section here, there's going to be a little bit of patching to do. You know, there's going to be a lot of prep work to do on the metal that's on the inside of the body before we put the new floor pan in. Because we got to weld the floor pan, because the floor pan stops right here. And so all this metal, okay, and then back here on the inside of our quarter panels, all that needs to be cleaned up and prepped and patched and prepped to weld the new floor to. Because that's what the floor has to weld to. So we want the frame out of here so that we actually have room to do a good job. And plus we want to be able to finish painting the frame and do all that stuff separately. I want the body over here and I want the frame right here in the middle stall. So what I'm going to do is I am going to total brain malfunction. Did I already explain about taking the body mount bolts out? Yeah, I did, right? Okay. So the body is not attached to the frame anymore. So let's do this. Let's jack up the front and the back of the car, okay? Let's just jack the whole thing up. Jack the frame and body up, and then we'll stack concrete or wood blocks, whatever I have on hand. I'll have to go dig. I might have to go buy some things. But let's just keep it simple and just say cinder blocks. And yeah, and you know what? And we will use the cinder blocks in the proper direction. Don't want to get roasted for that, right? Just jack the car up into the air. the whole thing, and then just, I don't know, it might be maybe say 3 cinder blocks high that we slide underneath. Do that here and do that here on both sides of the car, and then lay a 4x4 post across the blocks or bricks, whatever it is. Just lay that across and set the car down, lower the jacks. Set the car down on the rocker panels. And when the body sets down right here on the rocker panels on the 4x4s, and we keep lowering the jacks, the frame will lower below the body. And then we finagle the frame out. When we go to get the frame out from underneath, the snafu that we might run into would be not being able to get the rear axle past our blocks. But I think if, see the front's going to be free and clear from the get-go. But I think back here, oh yeah, our rocker panels are out far enough that we should be good. We'll be able to roll the frame out the garage door here on dollies. That'll work. And we actually need to make sure that we center the car. So we're going to have to move the car over. Yeah, we're going to have to scooch that way a little bit. I'd hate to do all that and then we run into the oh man, I wonder if anybody's ever done that. You know, and then what I'm going to have to do is, I'm going to have to move a bunch of dead cars out there to get the frame, to get the frame out. And then by myself, I'm going to have to move it over here and then get it into this stall without it going down the driveway and, into the street. And it's not something we want to deal with. But that's what that's for. That all sounds honky-dory, but what is the next step, my friend? Because, well, if we start cutting the floor out, we're going to have 56 Chevy bodies. It's going to be tri-5s falling like rain because we're going to have the car sitting on the rocker panels. So that's not going to work. I got a plan. If you take a look right back here, the wheel wells on the inside of the car, on the inside of the trunk, and the package tray area, this piece right here going across where they literally designed this to bolt mount the rear shocks into. This is sturdy. This is a sturdy area. So let's drill. Yeah, let's drill. Let's drill some holes right here, and then we'll build a wood stand and slide it up underneath here. Here's where our holes would be, and we'll bolt it right to that. And then we'll make another stand out of wood. It'll look kind of like a sawhorse, and that's going to go that way underneath the front of the body, so we can have the front sitting down on top of the sawhorse, and the part of the body that will be sitting down on the wood sawhorse will be our braces. We got one on each side, and so this part right here will be sitting down on the wood. We're going to make the stands out of wood because it's lighter and cheaper than metal, so that's the reason for that. And we could add casters and be able to roll the body around, but there's no point in adding that cost and that extra work into it, because the goal is to get the floor, the new floor, into the car, or the old floor out and the new floor in, and our frame painted and all that, and things put back together as fast as possible while doing a good job. The point is, is we're not going to settle in for a year of the body being off the frame. So we're just going to keep it simple and force ourselves to work fast on it and get it done. You know what happens when these kinds of projects stall out. It never ends well. And I'm sure there's things that I'm not even thinking about that are going to pop up. In fact, the rear bumper is one. We're going to have to take that off, I'm sure. I don't think there's any way the body's coming off if we don't. Thought that was going to fall right on my hand. I was just preparing to start talking about bracing. I'll set this off to the side. We were talking about bracing earlier. Why would we want to put bracing in here? Well, because when we are cutting the pieces out like the floor, we don't want the body to go and then we have, complete, just total nightmare. Don't want that. And how am I going to do the bracing? I'm going to use just square tubing, and I'll probably run a piece off this dog leg right here. I'll probably run a piece from here down to there, tack weld it in, probably behind where the front seats would be. I'll run in probably an X from one side of the car to the other. That might be about it. Very simple. Now, the thing is, and this is just, we could go down a rabbit hole on this for hours if we wanted to. We're not, but we could. When is the best time to weld your bracing in? Because think about this here. Okay, the idea of the bracing is so that the body does not twist and change, doors will close, and all that kind of stuff. You don't want your body twisting, obviously, right? But cars like this, these things have been sitting in fields for decades on flat tires, blown out body mounts. If we measured things out, if we really looked at this, we would figure out that it's not perfectly straight and level and all that kind of good stuff. Now, it'll never be perfect. That'll never happen. Not in this garage anyways. But it doesn't need to be. But if we go ahead and weld in braces right now before we take the body off the frame, that way nothing twists and changes. If we weld in those braces, we take the body off the frame, we weld the new floor in, and then remove the braces, okay, our body will not have twisted, but it might not be how we want it to be. Now with this car, I would be comfortable with welding bracing in right now and then doing our new floor and our rockers. I'd be completely comfortable and confident with that. And I'm sure we'd be able to get, our trunk lid and doors and everything to open and close properly. I think we would be good to go. We're safe to do that. I don't really have a point to make with this thought here. It's just interesting to think about how you don't want the body to be all like this. You want it as straight, you want it as true as you can before you weld your bracing in and then start replacing all your metal. But if you do need to make some adjustments before you weld your bracing in, and you're starting with a saggy, rotten car, where do you begin? But that's one thing that is so intriguing and special about this type of a process with a car like this is it's up to you on your own to figure out a complex issue and work your way through it. This stuff up top, think about this. So, okay, is this a piece of trim lower than this piece of trim because the hinges are blown out, the door needs adjustment, Or is something up here or something down here twisted? You know, the only, because here's the thing. It's you don't want to just, we're not just going to just do whatever and screw everything up. But at the same time, it's the same thing as so many things in life, in this world, is you kind of got to just start messy. You know, we kind of have to, you know, okay, well, I don't know. What's the trunk lid look like when we put it down? I don't know. Let's measure back and forth in some places and see if it's relatively close. Let's look at, let's look at things with our eyeballs. I don't know. Is this point to this point the same on both sides or close enough? Or, well, I don't know. This has all been blown out and replaced and all crappy, excuse my language. You can't go off of anything down here. So if we think up here is good, or good enough, or, we think that all this is not twisted and it's straight and level enough. I mean, the glass is in here. The glass is cracked, but who knows why it cracked. But there's glass in here that's not broken into 10 pieces and has fallen out. So the body's probably not twisted like that. So, we got to kind of just, wow, this is good. This is good up here. So, brace it up and then start cutting stuff out and then start working things out, figuring things out little by little, and hope that when you're all done, that it's okay. And right now the car's sitting on jack stands. And that each jack stand is not the exact same height as each other. And they're on different parts of the frame. If the car was sitting on inflated wheels and tires instead of jack stands, that would change things a little bit. And and you just gotta start messy. That's what we're gonna do. A long-winded way of saying that I'm not 100% confident in any of this. It could turn into a disaster. But but we can just start messy and use some common sense, and I think we'll be okay. And the floor is about $900, so it better be okay. And I just thought of something right here on the spot. But if you don't, what I'm about to say, if you don't like it, let me know in the comments. Because if you can help me avoid a potential disaster, whether you've done this yourself or not in real life, or if, you're just seeing in your head how things might play out or what would be smart to do, put it in the comments. Help me out. Because I just thought that what I should do is not put any bracing in the car before taking it off the frame. Because with the floor pan in place, we haven't cut in, the trunk floor's gone, but the main floor here, we haven't cut anything out. There's strength there, even though it's rotted, but the floor is in there. And with the doors closed, I don't see any reason why we couldn't get the car onto our blocks and posts and then onto our wood stands without bracing in the car. I don't see any reason why that won't work. In the body, of course, will flex a little bit. I mean, it does when you're driving the car. It's metal, but we're not gonna, we're not gonna damage anything. So I think we could get the frame out of here, get the body sitting on its wood stands that we're going to build, and then we'll take the doors off the car to get them out of our way, and then we can go over it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that the body is sitting the way that we want it to be when the new floor is in. Because we'll be able to shim up our wood stands and whatever we got to do to get this body nice and true the way we want it. And then we will put our bracing in. And then we will cut the floor out. Yeah, that's it. Well, that's interesting. I invited you over here today so that I could tell you exactly what my plan was. And then as we were talking about it, I started rethinking a few things. Well, I've got it figured out, but I'm also confused at the same time. That's just because we don't know what's going to happen when we start doing it. That's just my trick to get you to come back, or even better, watch another video with this car right now. Boy, that was an open and honest discussion. I can't wait to cut this car apart. I'm rambling.